Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on just a phenomenal piece of family history. We're tracing the life of your 3X great-grandfather, Henry Bissell. His entire existence was really forged in the fire of the Industrial Revolution.
And then we follow this radical choice made by his daughter, a choice that sends the family line clear across the ocean to the American West.
It's an incredible story.
It truly is a remarkable arc. I mean, we are moving from this dense, almost suffocating environment of 19th century industrial England, specifically an area they called the Black Country.
Right.
And we're going from there to the vast, arid, completely different pioneering landscape of Utah. The sources you've gathered tell this powerful story of two generations making, well, completely different but equally high stakes decisions just to survive.
That's it, exactly. So our deep dive today has a very specific two-part mission. First, we really need to understand the volatility and just the sheer grinding struggle of Henry Bissell's exceptionally long life. His ability to endure is the bedrock of this entire family history.
And second, we'll dissect the calculated, pivotal risk taken by his daughter, Anna Maria Bissell. A risk that, we believe was absolutely necessary for her to escape that industrial churn, allowing the family to literally cross an ocean and plant new roots.
Before we jump into Henry's world, let's just quickly confirm the ancestral line for you. It all begins with Henry Bissell, the survivor we're about to meet. His daughter, the adventurer, was Anna Maria Bissell. The line then flows through William Henry Rowbury, then Lucille Rowbury, Arlene Hillman, and finally it connects directly to you.
And that transition between Henry and Anna Maria, that is the dynamic tension of this story. To understand why Anna Maria took such a massive gamble, we first have to immerse ourselves in the brutal, unrelenting pressure cooker that was Henry's life.
Okay, so let's start with Henry Bissell's timeline. He was born April 19th, 1836 in Dudley, Worcestershire.
Right. His parents were Thomas and Anne Bissell. And then in 1858, when Henry was 22, he marries Sarah Mew at St. James Church.
And they married right at the apex of Victorian industrialization.
They did. And the records, they immediately reveal the immense pressures that came with that era. They faced the challenge of raising a massive family in an environment that, well, it often failed to support them.
The sheer scale of their family life just jumps off the page.
It really does.
Henry and Sarah had at least 4 sons and 7 daughters. That's 11 children. 11 children that they needed to shelter and clothe and feed in probably the most challenging industrial environment in the world.
Well, 11 children meant, 11 potential wage earners eventually. But at first, it just meant 11 vulnerable lives. And the sources remind us that the constant shadow of early death was just part of daily reality.
Yeah, we see that so poignantly in the records, like the death of their son, Thomas Bissell, who died in February 1864. He was just 3 years old.
And that loss wasn't an isolated event.
And that fragility is precisely why Henry's story is really defined by survival.
Absolutely. He lived in the same industrial town of Oldbury for about 20 years, and he survived the entire Victorian era. He died in Birmingham in 1923 at the truly remarkable age of 87. For a man born into those conditions, that longevity speaks volumes about his grit.
He was a survivor, yes, but we need to understand the tremendous cost of that survival. And to do that, we have to look at the environment Henry was fighting against, the Black Country.
The name is key, isn't it? Dudley and Oldbury were the core of Britain's industrial might, the absolute epicenter of heavy manufacturing. If you could have visited in, say, the 1870s, you would have seen the air literally choked with soot.
Just constantly.
Constantly. From thousands of coal pits, iron furnaces, and metalworking foundries all operating around the clock.
Historical accounts describe the light of day being blocked out by smoke, rivers running black, the air being toxic. So what was the lived reality for a working man trying to keep 11 people alive in that?
Devastating. The social conditions were devastating, wages were competitive but low, housing was cramped and polluted, and job security was basically non-existent. And that brings us to Henry's working life, which the census records track with just painful precision.
What do they show?
They show a relentless, clear, and dramatic downward trajectory over 3 decades.
This is where the records really go beyond just facts and start telling a story about financial pressure. So let's look at 1861 first. Henry is listed as a screwmaker in Dudley. What does that title actually signify in that context?
It signifies a specific, recognized skill. Being a screwmaker meant working in a factory, probably operating machinery, or performing a specialized task.
So it wasn't just brute force.
Exactly. While not glamorous, it implies a certain level of training and, relative stability. A steady wage, maybe a small measure of pride in his craft. That's a decent starting point for a young man with a growing family.
Okay, now let's jump forward 20 years to the 1881 census. And this is a massive shift. He's no longer a screwmaker. He's listed as a laborer colliery in Oldbury, a coal mine worker. What happened?
This is a clear indicator of market instability or a massive loss of status. He's moved from a trade, a skilled position, to being an unskilled or minimally skilled worker in the dirtiest, most dangerous industry of the time.
So this wasn't a lateral move.
Oh no, it was a desperate plunge.
Moving from a factory floor to hauling coal out of the ground, how drastic was that change for a man who's already in his mid-40s?
It was life or death. Colliery labor was backbreaking. He faced constant danger from cave-ins, explosions, long-term lung diseases. And economically, his wages likely became subject to the fluctuating demand for coal, meaning far less reliability than a steady factory job.
And the title laborer is the key part there.
It is. It suggests he was doing the heavy, non-specialized lifting. He was physically trading his body for his family's survival.
And the slide continues, which is just truly heartbreaking. By the 1891 census, just 10 years later, Henry is listed simply as a general laborer.
That is the final, desperate step. General laborer means the bottom rung of the economic ladder.
So anything he could get.
Anything. He was a day laborer, taking whatever work he could find whenever he could find it. Hauling, digging, cleaning. It signifies that he had exhausted his skilled options and was now accepting massive risk and minimal pay just to keep his large family housed and fed week to week.
The story of Henry Bissell, just spanning those 3 census records, it's a textbook definition of the grinding difficulty of life during industrialization.
And it wasn't just the physical hardship. It was the degradation of skill, the constant acceptance of less status for the sake of endurance.
And we know survival required a shared burden. We see that his wife, Sarah, was instrumental in holding the family together financially.
Absolutely. The sources show she worked first as a bootbinder.
Which is piecework, right? Probably from home.
Often done from home, yes.
Yeah.
And later, she's listed as a dealer in sweets, running a small shop or retail operation.
So every shilling counted.
Every shilling counted, and every member had to contribute.
So that is the foundation. A life defined by relentless industrial struggle, held together by sheer resilience. And this is the world that shaped their daughter, Anna Maria Bissell, born in 1859. Now we pivot to her, the person who decided she had to break the chain.
And the catalyst for that break appears to be her marriage to William Erastus Rowbury, a miner, on August 29, 1880. They married in the same church as her parents, St. James, but the surrounding details of this event raise several important questions.
The certificate states Anna Maria was 21 and William was 23. 21 aligns with that 1859 birth year we see in some records. But as we dig deeper, we find a compelling discrepancy, one that suggests this stated age might not have been accurate.
This is where we have to analyze the source material critically. While 1859 is present in some research, other documentation points strongly to a different birth year, 1863.
So if 1863 is the correct date, Anna Maria wouldn't have been 21 at the time of her marriage.
No, she would have been 17.
17 versus 21 is a monumental difference in Victorian England.
Oh, huge. It changes the social dynamic, the legal requirements around parental consent, everything.
So what evidence supports that younger age?
The most compelling clue comes from the place her life ended, her headstone in Utah. She died in 1892, and the inscription on her gravestone states clearly that she died at age 29.
And if you subtract 29 years from 1892, you land precisely on 1863.
Exactly. So the final physical marker of her life suggests she was 4 years younger than the age claimed on her marriage certificate.
Wow.
This huge discrepancy suggests the possibility of a calculated choice, a potential misstatement of age made by Anna Maria and William to, expedite their marriage and launch the next phase of their life together.
And there's another clue on that same marriage certificate that supports the idea of a rushed event, or one that maybe lacked full parental blessing.
Yes, the witnesses.
Who were the witnesses listed?
The witnesses were William's parents, Joseph and Anne. This is highly unusual.
Why?
For the bride's parents, Henry and Sarah, who lived right there in Oldbury, not to witness their daughter's marriage. It points to a situation where the marriage may have been rushed.
Right.
Or perhaps undertaken without Anna Maria's parents' full approval.
So this potential adjustment of age, born out of some kind of necessity or pressure, was the engine that powered the next great chapter.
It seems so. They started a family very quickly in that same Black Country world. Lydia, in 1881, Your direct ancestor, William Henry, in 1883, and Emma in 1885.
3 children in 5 years, and they were still surrounded by the same grinding poverty and insecurity that had defined her father's entire career.
They saw the end result of staying in Dudley. They saw what happened to Henry.
And in 1886, they made a monumental decision. They decided to leave. The entire Young family decided to immigrate to the United States, heading to the very distinct, very remote destination of Utah.
Just imagine that mental leap. You have to contrast the world they were leaving. The suffocating, soot-filled streets of Dudley and Oldbury, where life felt perpetually contained with the world they were traveling to. The vast, open, dry air of Fountain Green, Sanpete County, Utah.
It's a 5,000-mile journey, a completely different continent, climate, and culture.
This was a total commitment. They didn't just dip a toe in the water, they plunged right in. The sources show they immediately rooted themselves in their new life. William Rowbury and their oldest child, Lydia, were both baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on May 15, 1886, immediately after they arrived.
They weren't tourists. They were pioneers.
They embraced the frontier. The family continued to grow in Fountain Green, welcoming 3 more children, Sarah Ann, Joseph James, and their final child, Clara Elizabeth.
But Anna Maria's life, which began with this risky, decisive choice, it ended abruptly. She did not inherit her father Henry's long life.
No. Her story concludes suddenly on May 18, 1892. She died at the age of 33, or more likely 29, based on that headstone evidence.
And the cause?
Tragically, she passed away just 3 days after giving birth to her youngest child, Clara Elizabeth. She had traded the industrial dangers of England for the inherent high perils of frontier life and childbirth.
It's just an incredible short life defined by fierce determination and movement. Let's synthesize this journey. Henry's life was about resilience, holding the line against the industrial churn that stripped him of his skill and forced him down the ladder. He survived for 87 years in that world.
And Anna Maria's life was defined by the decision that simply surviving wasn't enough. She gambled on a future, starting with a possible adjustment of her age to secure her marriage and undertaking a perilous 5,000-mile journey that launched her family line across the world but ultimately cost her everything.
This family history is propelled by more than just dates. It is driven by intense human drama and sacrifice. Henry's grit provided the foundation.
And Anna Maria's desperate choice enabled that monumental transition to a new future.
That desperation is the key thread connecting the Black Country to Utah. We've seen the grinding financial and social pressure Henry faced decade after decade.
And this raises the final, provocative question that should stick with you.
Given the immense challenges Henry Bissell was navigating in the Black Country, what was the specific immediate crisis? Was it social disapproval, overwhelming debt, or perhaps a religious calling that drove his daughter, Anna Maria, to take the risk of potentially misstating her age, abandoning her home, and undertaking a journey to Utah that would ultimately demand the ultimate sacrifice from her?
That defining moment of desperation is the true, powerful engine of your family's story.